Welcome back. If you watched the first module, you should now understand why your brain makes a terrible filing cabinet. Today, we're going to fix that by building your capture system. And I'm warning you right now, this lesson might feel a little overwhelming at first, but stick with me because this is where the magic starts. We're going to begin with what I call the great brain dump. And it's exactly what it sounds like. We're going to get absolutely everything out of your head and onto paper or into a digital system. Absolutely everything. Now, when I say absolutely everything, I mean everything. Work projects, personal errands, that weird thought you had about reorganizing your closet, the book your friend recommended 6 months ago, the fact that you need to call your insurance company, your goal to learn guitar, that nagging feeling you should exercise more, all of it will go into the system. I know what you're thinking, but what if I forgot something? Here's the beautiful truth. You will forget something. Actually, you'll forget lots of things, and that's totally fine because GTD isn't about achieving perfect capture on day one. It's about building the habit of getting things out of your head as they occur to you. Think of your first brain dump as archaeology. You're excavating all the stuff that's been buried in your mental attic. Some of it will be important, some of it will be garbage, and some of it will make you wonder why you were keeping it around in the first place. Let me tell you about my first brain dump. I thought I was pretty organized, so I figured I'd have maybe 30 or 40 items. 3 hours later, I had written down over 200 things. I had everything from finished quarterly reports to fixing squeaky door hinge to figuring out why I don't like cilantro. It was exhausting and exhilarating at the same time. But here's what happened next, and this is why the brain dump is so powerful. For the first time in years, my mind was actually quiet. Not empty, quiet. I could focus on one thing without 3 other things demanding attention in the background. So how do you do a proper brain dump? First, set aside at least 2 hours of uninterrupted time. Turn off notifications, close your email, put your phone in another room. This is deep work. Start with the obvious stuff, your current work projects, appointments you need to make, errands you need to run. But don't stop there. David Allen includes what he calls a trigger list, categories designed to jog your memory about things you might have forgotten. Think about your different areas of responsibility. What's happening with your career, your health, your relationships, your finance, your home? Are there any maintenance issues, any goals you've been putting off, any conversations you've been avoiding? Go through your physical spaces mentally. What needs attention in your office, in your car, or your kitchen? That junk drawer that shall not be named. I'm serious about this. Even write down organized junk drawer if that's been nagging you. Don't edit yourself during this process. If it pops into your head, write it down. Learn to juggle goes on the list right next to file taxes. You're not committing to doing everything. You're just getting it out of your head so you can think clearly about what actually matters. And here's a pro tip. Pay attention to the stuff that makes you feel a little guilty or anxious when you write it down. That's usually the important stuff you've been avoiding. The phone call you need to make, the difficult conversation you need to have, the project you've been procrastinating on, those items are using up the most mental energy. By the end of this process, you should feel simultaneously exhausted and relieved. Exhausted because you just realized how much stuff you were trying to keep track of mentally. Relieved because it's finally out of your head and on paper. One of my course participants told me that after her brain dump, she slept better than she had in months. Her brain finally trusted that the important stuff was captured somewhere, so her brain could actually rest. Lesson 2. Inbox design that actually works. Now that you've done your brain dump, we need to talk about where all this stuff is going to live going forward. This is where most people make critical mistakes that doom their productivity system from the start. The key principle is this. Capture must be absolutely frictionless. If it takes more than 5 seconds to get something out of your head and into your system, you won't do it consistently. And if you don't capture consistently, your brain will never trust the system, which means you'll go right back to trying to remember everything. I learned this the hard way when I first tried to get organized. I set up this elaborate system with multiple notebooks, color-coded categories, and detailed filing structures. It was beautiful, but it was also completely unusable. When I had a quick thought while walking into a meeting, I wasn't going to stop, pull out my notebook, flip to the right section, and write it down properly. So I tell myself I'll remember it later. But spoiler alert, I never did. The solution is to have as few capture points as possible and to make them incredibly easy to use. I recommend starting with just 2, one digital and one physical. For digital capture, you want to use something that's available everywhere and syncs instantly. This could be a notes app on your phone, a task management app, or just emailing yourself. In fact, right now I have a system where I can just create a text message and it goes directly into my task inbox. This means I can pound out the idea with my thumbs in just a few seconds, or I can actually use Siri to dictate it when I'm driving or walking. The key is that you can get to it in seconds whether you're at your desk, in your car, or lying in bed at 3 in the morning with a brilliant idea. For physical capture, carry a small notebook or use index cards. I know this sounds old-fashioned in our digital world, but trust me on this. Sometimes you're in a meeting and pulling out your phone feels rude. Sometimes you're at dinner with family and you don't want to be the person always looking at your screen. Sometimes you just think better with pen and paper. The golden rule: one inbox per location. Have one digital inbox and one physical inbox, one for work and one for home. Don't create 17 different places where things might be hiding. Your brain needs to know exactly where to look for everything. And here's something crucial that most productivity gurus won't tell you. Your inbox doesn't have to be pretty. It doesn't have to be organized. It just has to work. My digital inbox is often a chaotic mess of random thoughts, half sentences, weird abbreviations that only make sense to me. That is totally fine. The inbox is temporary storage, not a permanent filing system. Think of your inbox like a funnel. Everything goes into the wide end, messy, unorganized, unsorted. Then you process it regularly and everything flows out the narrow end into your organized system. The magic isn't in the inbox itself, it's in the processing. But what about all those productivity apps with fancy features and beautiful interfaces? Here's my honest opinion. Start simple. You can always upgrade your tools later, but you can't fix a capture habit that never gets started because your system was too complicated. Some people swear by voice memos. If that works for you, great, but make sure you actually listen to them and process them later. I've seen too many people with hundreds of unprocessed voice memos that are essentially digital junk drawers. The same goes for photos. Taking a picture of a business card or a whiteboard can be great capture, but only if you review those photos regularly and extract the actionable information. Whatever tools you choose, test them for a week before committing. Can you capture something in under 5 seconds? Does it sync reliably? Can you access it when you need it? If the answer is no, find something else. Remember, the best capture system is the one you'll actually use consistently. A simple notebook that you always have with you beats the most sophisticated app that you forget to check. Lesson 3, the capture habit. All right, so you've done your brain dump, you've set up your capture tools, and now comes the real challenge: building the habit of using them consistently. This is where most people struggle, so I want to give you some practical strategies that actually work. The first few weeks of building your capture habit are crucial. Your brain is going to test the system. It's going to throw random thoughts at you when you're in the shower, driving, or trying to fall asleep. It's checking to see if you're serious about this external system or if you're going back to the old way of trying to remember everything. Here's my number one rule. When something pops into your head, you have exactly 2 choices. Either do it right now if it takes less than 2 minutes, or capture it immediately. There's no third option. There's no "I'll remember this one thing" exception. I call this the no mental parking rule. You're not allowed to park thoughts in your head anymore. Every thought gets either immediate action or immediate capture. This feels weird at first because you're used to having a bunch of things floating around in your mental background. But within a week or 2, the relief is incredible. Let me give you some real scenarios of how this works. You're in a meeting and someone mentions a book you should read. The old habit? I'll remember that for sure. And then you will promptly forget it by the time the meeting ends. Your new habit will be to immediately jot it down. Book recommendation, the title, in your notebook or on your phone. You're driving and you realize you need to call your doctor to schedule a checkup. Old habit? Think, "I'll remember to do that when I get home." And then you'll spend the rest of the drive trying not to forget it. Plus, you're feeling vaguely anxious about it. Your new habit will be to use the voice assistant on your phone to send a text message to yourself so that you can have it in your system when you get home. You're lying in bed and suddenly remember you need to send an important email first thing tomorrow. Your old habit? You'll lie there repeating, "Email John about the project," over and over again so that you don't forget, which keeps you awake. The new habit: grab your phone, add it to your inbox, and go back to sleep with a clear mind. This takes practice and you will mess up sometimes. That's totally normal. The key is to notice when you catch yourself trying to remember something and immediately course correct. "Oh wait, I'm doing it again. Let me capture this right now." Here's the weird thing that will happen. You'll start capturing thoughts that seem obviously important. Then you'll gradually start capturing smaller and smaller things. The book recommendation becomes writing down interesting article titles. The major project deadline becomes noting that you need to pick up dry cleaning. This isn't mission creep. This is your brain learning to trust the system. Some people worry they'll become obsessive about capturing every tiny thought. In my experience, the opposite happens. Once your brain trusts that the important stuff gets captured, it actually gets better at filtering what's worth capturing and what can just be let go. The processing part is crucial too. If you capture everything, but never look at your inbox again, your brain will stop trusting the system. I recommend processing your inbox at least once a day, preferably at the same time each day so it becomes routine. I do it in the morning while I'm having breakfast, or it's the first thing I do when I get to work. When you process, you're not doing the work. You're just deciding what each captured item actually means and where it belongs in your system. We'll cover this in detail in the next module, but for now, just know that regular processing is what makes the capture habit sustainable. Oh, and one more thing, be patient with yourself. Building a new habit takes time, and this particular habit requires rewiring some pretty deep patterns about how you handle thoughts and commitments. Some days, you'll nail it. Some days, you'll find yourself back in mental storage mode. That's normal and expected. The goal here isn't perfection, it's progress. Every thought you capture instead of trying to remember is a small victory. Every time you externalize something and feel that little mental relief, you're reinforcing the new pattern. I promise you this, once the capture habit really clicks, and it will click, you'll wonder how you ever functioned without it. The mental quiet and clarity that comes from knowing everything important is safely stored outside your head is genuinely life-changing. But here's the thing, capturing everything is just the first step. Now we have to deal with all that stuff we captured, and that's where things get really interesting. Because we're going to learn how to transform that chaotic pile of captured thoughts into clear, actionable decisions. That's what we're covering in the next module, how to clarify what everything actually means and what you're going to do about it. Trust me, this is where the real productivity breakthroughs happen. But for now, your homework is simple. Practice capturing everything. Carry your capture tools with you everywhere. Use them religiously for the next week, and get ready to be amazed at how much mental space opens up when you stop trying to be a human hard drive. The transformation is just the beginning.